and she is sick, or she was sick, or she has always been sick. And the ex-fiancé is the only one who knows about it. The same ex-fiancé who has just returned to take her back to America with him. Is this a melodrama? No. Is this a soap opera? No. This is actually a rom-com. This is Love Next Door. Hi, I'm Karen, and this is the Blossom Review, very first halftime show. Today we're talking about TVN's Love Next Door. So we are here today because Love Next Door, which is currently being aired on TVN if you're in Korea or internationally on Netflix, just aired its 8th episode last Sunday, so we're halfway through the journey, and we're here to talk about whether or not the show has delivered so far. Has it? Not really. Let me tell you why. Love Next Door is a show that lots of people, including myself, we have been looking forward to watching. Love Next Door was written by the same writer as Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha, which is one of my favorite shows. It's on Netflix. Wink, recommendation. And the cast is excellent. I mean, Jung Hae-in is love of my life, and Jung So-mi is one of my favorite actresses because of My First Life. Anybody? Because it's My First Life? Yep. Please, if you haven't watched Because It's My First Life, go watch it. Excellent rom-com and excellent social commentary as well. Anyway, so Love Next Door aired its 8th episode last Sunday. In Korea, the ratings were quite good. I think the average nationwide rating was of 6.5%, which, for you to have an idea, it's more than Lovely Runner, that was incredibly successful internationally, but it's less than Queen of Tears or Marry My Husband, which were two very successful shows for TVN this year. So if you're here, you've probably watched the first 8 episodes, but the story follows Seok-ryu, who is a girl who after spending 10 years in America, she graduated from university there on a full scholarship. She got a really good job there, and she was engaged to a lawyer there. Her life seemed to be perfect, so after 10 years of this seemingly perfect life, she quits her job, breaks off her engagement, decides to go back to Korea and start again. And of course, in Korea, she reunites with her childhood friend, Choi Sung, and who is a very successful architect. And this is a story of how Seok-ryu rebuilds her life, and of course how the childhood friends realize that maybe the feelings that they have are not only about friendship. Quick disclaimer, I like the show. I think there are very good things about it. However, I don't think that the script is as strong as it should be. And there are some things that we should talk about. So, number 1, characters that haven't evolved. So, this is a 16-episode show, okay? Every character is supposed to have a character arc. Especially the main and the supporting characters, they're all supposed to have a character arc. And the character arc here is very clear. We are in this uplifting rom-com, so the characters are supposed to show some sort of development. So they're going to grow and improve, okay? But if you take, for example, Seok-ryu's parents, they haven't shown any sort of growth in the last 8 episodes, which means that their character arc, if it happens, it won't be very well paced, because it means flatline for 8 episodes and then this huge jump from episode 9 forwards. If you take her parents in the first episode and her parents in episode 8, they are exactly the same people, and that's not very good. So it means they haven't learned anything, they haven't started this character arc yet. Let's take another show as an example, okay? So I think a good show that involves the illness plot. This year we had Queen of Tears, right? Queen of Tears is a show that has its fair share of flaws, but to be honest, the narrative structure of Queen of Tears was sound. And I think a good example is her family. So the main character in Queen of Tears was also sick, and her family had no idea about it. But her family had already started growing and evolving before they found out that she was sick. So the discovery of her illness only pushed that growth and that development further. In this case now, Sokryu's parents haven't shown any sort of development, which means that, this is what I expect to happen in the next few episodes, when they find out that they have been unfair and treating her terribly for years on end, and they find out that she has struggled so much on her own, and of course that she was or is or has been sick, that's probably gonna ignite this 360-degree change that is gonna feel unrealistic. So overnight, they're gonna change into better people, which is not very good. And even if that doesn't really happen, it's sort of strange that they haven't really evolved at all in the past 8 episodes, and then they become excellent people in the second half. So that's a bit strange. And this problem reoccurs with other characters. For example, her brother at first just seemed to be some sort of cardboard cutout, a character that was there for comic relief. And then out of nowhere in episode 8, you find out that he was sick when he was a kid, and that's why he's being spoiled by his parents. But you don't really get this information before. Of course, he's a 30-year-old guy who has been living with his parents, fair enough, but he never showed the side that was really toxic. But then you realize in this episode, in episode 8, that he is as toxic as her parents. An episode that was pretty much comic relief has now turned into this toxic character that of course contributes to this toxic family environment that she has. But it is strange that there hasn't been any sort of development in this family environment at all in the past 8 episodes. The same happens with Choi Sung's family. You have enough information to sort of understand maybe the mother has had an affair in the past, the relationship between the parents is not very healthy. You understand that Choi Sung was pretty much raised by Sokryu's mother due to, his mother's job. But once again, there's no development, there's no evolution, there's no growth there, which is not very good. Once again, it goes to show that the character development, the character arcs haven't been well paced. So this is point 1. Number 2, plot lines that don't seem to be moving. So in Love Next Door, you have 2 main plot lines. Sokryu's chase after a new dream, rebuilding her life, and of course the romantic relationship that is supposed to develop between the 2 main characters. Now, if you think about 8 episodes, this is half the show, half of the story. The scenes between the main characters haven't been particularly romantic most of the time. And the only thing that happened was the return of Choi Sung's ex-girlfriend, who has sort of pushed him into confessing his feelings. So he confesses his feelings, and that's pretty much it. So this is the development that has happened in the past 8 episodes with this plotline. Meanwhile, to be fair, Sokryu's has found a new dream. She has this new dream that she's very invested in. She's working very hard to rebuild her life. But the scenes that explore this journey, this new journey of hers, they haven't been very satisfying, to be honest. It was a bit like, okay, we have an instance here that she cooks, we have an instance there that she cooks, and then she realizes, cooking is my thing, and that's pretty much it. Okay, she found her dream, but then the problem also is that apparently she had a mental breakdown in the US due to overwork, but that hasn't been dealt with. In 8 episodes, they haven't dealt with this huge problem, because overwork bullying at the workplace is a very serious problem, and this is going to affect her, or it has affected her physically and mentally, and that should be dealt with. However, in this case, she has that face-off with one of the guys who bullied her alongside Cho-sung when they went to that meeting between Cho-sung's architecture firm and her former company. So they pretty much shout at each other, you have that intense confrontation, and that's it. But to be honest, facing somebody who has bullied you doesn't really solve the problem. You have this floating plotline here in which the main character is dealing with the fallout of this mental breakdown, of this bullying at the workplace that probably happened for 10 years or at least 9 years, and they haven't dealt with it. 8 episodes and nothing has started to move. This is very, very little plot development for 8 episodes, especially considering that the episodes in Love Next Door are 1 hour and 20 minutes long. So that's a lot of running time. So unfortunately, the plot lines are also not moving smoothly, let's say. The plot points are not very well paced either. So problem number 3, characterizations. Both, I think Cho-sung and Seok-ryu are not green flags per se. And that's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine to have protagonists that are not green flags, because in life we are not all green flags all the time. So it's fine, it's realistic, and it makes us relate to the characters more easily. However, their behavior, remember that Choi-sung and Seok-ryu, they are past their 30s. They are 32, something like that. And their behavior feels immature most of the time. Not just her inability to communicate, because I think that happens even, regardless of your age, it does happen. But for example, Cho-sung, the way that he confesses to her, and not just that, this idea that he's every day sending her texts saying 9 days left, 8 days left, because they promised each other that there was an expiry date to his confession. She had to reply to his confession by a certain date, and he keeps sending these messages every day. This is just immature. It's a bit grating to see that, because if you're talking about a story with an 18-year-old, a high school student, okay, and they have this sort of behavior, you forgive them because they're just kids. There's nothing wrong with that. But with a 30-year-old, I'm like, and he's had a relationship before, so this is not like, oh my god, it's just this first relationship. No. This feels odd. It also feels odd that in the story, Seok-ryu's ex-fiancé comes back from America to take her back, let's say. It feels strange how she's just putting up with this. And that leads to problem number 4, script writing that doesn't feel realistic. At first, I just thought it was irritating to have this ex-fiancé comes back and he wants to take her back to America. Okay. But then you see in a flashback that he cheated on her. Okay, so not only he wasn't there for her when she was facing a mental breakdown, she was struggling with work, but he also cheated on her. So at first he's painted this sort of monster, let's say. It doesn't make sense that Seok-ryu is putting up with this, with his borderline stalkerish behavior, because he's literally stalking her. He's all over her all the time. And it's just frustrating to see that happen, considering that you've seen those scenes before, you know that he cheated on her. And now with this new plot point that she recovered from stomach cancer 3 years ago, it gets even worse. You start hating him even more because then not only he cheated on a girl who was struggling with bullying, with a mental background, but he also cheated on a girl who, poor thing, you know, she survived. It is a very difficult illness to face. You know, the process of treatment, it's intense. So you were next to her while she overcame this whole thing, and now you do this to her. It gets even worse. And so it doesn't make sense that she's putting up with this. And I think one thing that has annoyed me about this whole, oh my God, she was very, very sick 3 years ago and nobody knew about it, is because at first I felt like I could relate to Sokriu. Because like her, I went abroad when I was about 18, and I lived far away from my family for quite some time. So I understood her experience, or I thought I understood her experience. You know, that was 10 years ago. So I lived abroad, I lived far away from my family 10 years ago. Now, 10 years ago, I would Skype my mom every now and then, and I would send my friends those huge emails telling them what I was experiencing abroad and my struggles and my pain and my sadness, okay? And then you're telling me now that 3 years ago, Sokriu was in America. Okay, 3 years ago, guys, we had WhatsApp, we had Line, we had Kakao Talk, we had Zoom, we had Skype, we had all of that, okay? And this is a girl who's working at a Silicon Valley-esque sort of company, okay? So you're telling me that 3 years ago, she was so terribly sick that she had 70% of her stomach removed. She was a chemotherapy as well for an entire year. And you're telling me that during this entire year, she didn't talk to her parents at all. She didn't talk to her friends at all. So did she cut contact with everybody? That also, it doesn't make much sense, because then maybe they would have felt offended that she went on an entire year without talking to anybody. So when she returned, they'll be like, oh no, come on. No, I am hurt, I am sad. And at the same time, no, but maybe they talk to each other. She just faked it very well. Guys, going through chemotherapy, I don't think the person has the energy to put up a theater and fake it for an entire year. So it doesn't really sound realistic, because I can't imagine, even though 10 years ago I couldn't talk to my mom that often, but I talk to her every now and then, especially, you know, if you think about an entire year, guys, that's a long time. So for me, it sounds strange. I'm waiting to see what sort of explanation they're gonna give us. So for me, it was a bit disappointing, because I felt like I could relate to her for a lot of different reasons, and then the things just stopped making sense. I think that also the problem also is, in that case, is that they've been trying to sell this story to us of this unbreakable bond between Choi-sung, Sokriu, and Mo-eun as well, her best friend. And then she spent a year without talking to them, or just, you know, writing messages, no photos, no anything. Remember that we're talking about 3 years ago. We're not talking about 15 years ago. We're not talking about 10 years ago even. So it doesn't sound very realistic. And for me, it was a bit, for a show that promised to be an inspiring, uplifting rom-com, I am not getting the inspiration that I was expecting to get from this show, unfortunately, because it seems like they are putting more emphasis on the melodrama of this entire thing, instead of focusing on their journey of growth for Sokriu, for Choi-sung, for their parents. Because I wanted to see everybody grow, I wanted to see everybody improve in this story. But at the end, I'm just getting melodrama on top of melodrama on top of melodrama. And this is not exactly what I wanted to watch. Now let's talk about some, good things. What makes me stay? So what am I looking forward to in the next 8 episodes? Of course, I want to see if all these loose ends are gonna get tied up. I want to see if the writer is gonna come up with some logical explanations for this whole thing. Of course, I want to see Sokru be happy because the poor girl has suffered enough in life, come on. But I think my favorite thing about Love Next Door, which was a bit surprising for me, is actually the second couple. I love them so much. So I love Moyoung and Dan-oh, the journalist. I think the two of them have very strong personalities, and the chemistry between them is really nice, and it's really cute to watch them together, to see, they are proper rom-com material. The little misunderstandings and, the hand that touches. So all of those little things, they are magical. And I've been looking forward to their scenes more than the scenes with the main couple. They have showed us enough about Danu's background and his life with his daughter, but you still have a few questions there, and I want to see exactly what brought him to this place now, what brought him here to be a single dad with his young daughter, a journalist. So I'm really looking forward to see how their relationship develops. And how these characters also, because you see Moon, for example, she's very determined, she's very strong, she's outspoken, she's very courageous, and of course she has these dreams that she's working very hard towards. So I want to see how all of these are coming together. Another thing that I actually enjoyed about the first 8 episodes, but I'm sure that this is not going to continue much longer, is Shosung's ex-girlfriend. I think she is the ex done right, She has been very clear from the very beginning about her intentions, but at the same time, she gives Choi Sung space to breathe. She gives him enough food for thought to have him think about himself, about his emotions, about his past, and she allows him to make his own decisions. So even though she's there and you're like, oh God, but here you are, it's the ex, I don't want to see the ex. Okay, ex plotlines are usually annoying, but I think there is a reason why she's here. And this is the thing, every scene, every character needs to have motivation for existing. And I think it's very clear why she's here. She's here to ignite a change within Cho Sung and make him realize things that he has been hiding, he has been running away from for a long time. So I really like her, and she is sassy and also very outspoken, and she's very cool, and I like her. Where are we going from now? I have nothing against twists or illnesses plot lines, but in this case it does feel unnecessary, to be honest, considering that we have seen barely any character growth, considering that we still have Sokryu's past to deal with, both her former relationship and the problems that she had with her former company, and of course her battle, her journey towards her new dream. Considering that we still have all those little things to explore and solve. Her parents need a lot of work, her brother needs a lot of work, his parents need a lot of work. So we have so many different things to think about in the next few episodes. So I feel like this plot twist is definitely unnecessary, but let's see how they're going to put together this new plot twist with all these loose ends that have been thrown at us in the past 8 episodes. Episode 9 of Love Next Door comes out next Saturday on TVN in Korea or on Netflix internationally. So share in the comments what you have liked about the show, what you haven't liked, if you agree with me, if you disagree, your ideas, and well, I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Come back every Thursday for a new video, and of course take a look at theblossomreview.com for reviews on K-dramas, J-dramas, Korean and Japanese literature and cinema as well. We have a new post every Wednesday and every other Friday as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next. Have a lovely day.